Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Trey, getting in touch with you from Japan, and today we are continuing our series on how to turn $200 into $1 million. In this series, we're going to be taking a look at how to get started, how to do something new, how to start a business, how to grow a business. We turn $200 into $1 million in revenues. And normally on this channel, we're talking about like more finances, investing, specific stocks and stuff like that. But actually my passion, my joy, the things that get me the most pumped up for the future is talking about entrepreneurship, talking about development and personal growth, and also managing our finances and things like that too. In last week's episode, episode 1, if you haven't seen it yet, click up here. We talked about objections and how our mind can sometimes stop us from moving forward into taking a step into a new project or trying something new. You know, I shared some of my own mind's objections to me starting a new business, and some of them were like pretty rational, and those ended up causing me to be fearful, so much so that I just didn't get started for a few years, even though I really wanted to try something new. In this week's episode, we're gonna be talking a little bit more about how do you actually get started? What are some things that you're going to need to think about? How do you actually get the ball rolling? Hopefully some of these steps will be a little bit more practical and more helpful for you if you're thinking about getting started in a new business, a new side gig, or just starting something new in your life. As usual, in this video, I'll be sharing a lot about my own experiences, who I am, and the things that worked for me and the things that didn't work for me. And I want this series to be very interactive, and I want to be able to start conversations in the comment section or over on Instagram. I got a bunch of people messaging me on Instagram saying, you know, sharing about their own stories from all around the world, actually. Thank you guys very much for that. Let's keep it up. I hope to be able to build a strong community where we can help each other grow towards a brighter future. Most of my professional career has been made up of trying new things. I've been through more jobs than almost anybody I know. By 2005, when I finished college, I had already tried a bunch of new things. I was the leader of my club in my university, which I think was the biggest club on campus at UC Riverside in California, where I spent most of my days. Like, I studied and I did my homework and stuff, but besides that, spent most of my time just pouring into the community, just building people up, teaching people about life, learning about life, and being a big bro for people and stuff like that. And I found that to be one of my big passions. But at the same time, here and there, I would try out different projects, try out different jobs. And right out of college, I got a job at Target, actually. I know for some reason in videos, people always say a big retailer type thing. I don't know if it's okay if I talk about Target. This was like super long time ago, but I was going to job fairs and all that stuff like you do at the end of college, going to career fairs and talking to all these different companies. I had a few different interviews and like totally sucked at most of them. I somehow managed to get through the labyrinth of interviews with Target and eventually got hired into being one of the store managers, and did that for a little while and like didn't work out. But I realized that having a bright career path, a typical career path where I'm like trading my money for time and going to the store sometimes like 14, 16 hours a day, especially during like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, those kinds of periods, I realized like, dude, I can't spend time with the people I love. I can't be spending time hanging out with my buddies. They're all off on the weekends. It's the busiest time for me on the weekends. Can't be like going to church, can't be like spending time with my little brothers anymore and stuff like that. So eventually I decided it wasn't worth it for me, and so I quit. And then zooming forward many years later, like I had gone through a bunch of different jobs, like manual labor, like technical stuff, working on cars and all this stuff. But I circled all the way back around and was in insurance. I mentioned earlier in my Lemonade stock video that I was an insurance guy for a while. Did super well. I loved it. My boss would always telling me like, dude, out of all these years running an insurance agency, like you're by far the best worker and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And I liked it. And I kind of envisioned myself being an insurance broker. But one of the really interesting things I learned at that job was that, and this is in Southern California and LA, lots of really, really big clients. And some of these clients come in and they're like, I have 30, 40, 50 cars. I think our biggest client had 60 cars, and his house was like, he had like a helicopter pad and like he had airplanes and like all this stuff. Like these people are like multi-millionaires, if not billionaires. And one of the like unsettling things I saw was that most of the people who were just loaded with money weren't actually very nice or happy people. And I'd always been trained, work hard in school so you can get a good job, and when you get a good job, you'll get a lot of money, and when you get a lot of money, you'll be happy. But I'm like seeing all these people who are supposedly supposed to have the most money and therefore should be the happiest. And they were almost all like not very happy people. Like they would storm into the agency and be like, hey, do this thing for me. Ugh, like super like not enjoying their lives kind of thing. And so I was like, dude, what's the deal? And so despite being trained to believe that more money equals more happiness, I wasn't seeing that in real life. That being said, I do have a lot of friends who are both wealthy and happy, but I realized that actually money does not make you happy. If you're happy and then you make money, you can stay happy. But actually, I know a lot of people who are happy and have nothing, and they're just happy. And they're not like, oh my gosh, I need to make more money. And if I don't have money, I'm not gonna be happy kind of thing. Like, that's the wrong mindset. And I think you see a lot of these finance YouTubers, like a lot of them are just kind of like, yeah, it's cool that I make $50,000 a month. It's cool, but without it, life would still be cool kind of thing. And I think I started to look up to a lot of these people and start to question things. And so for me, with all these different jobs, especially the one in retail, it's like, dude, even if I have thousands of dollars in my bank account, if I can't actually be spending my time how I would like to with my friends, with my family, doing hobbies like photography, videography, working on cars or driving or things like that, it's kind of meaningless. It's kind of pointless, you know? And I didn't have a clear roadmap that was gonna be like, yeah, if I get through all of this drudgery for X number of years, then I'll be rich and happy, then I'll be able to do all the things I want to be doing. Like, life was teaching me a different path. And so that's one of the reasons I ended up going down this road that I've gone down. So in the last episode, I talked a lot about our company, Japan Wi-Fi Buddy, which we started in 2015. So I'm gonna jump back to that story. If you're not familiar with the story, please check out episode number 1. Anyways, skipping many years from the insurance job all the way up to Japan Wi-Fi Buddy, like, I had studied business in college, and in college we learn all these different intimidating concepts, like doing market research on things like competition and total addressable market and potential threats for the business in the future and a bunch of other ideas like that, you know, and you learn about that in college, but you don't actually learn the nitty-gritty of like, okay, what is step 1 and step 2 and step 3 to figure out the total addressable market. And I had all these ideas in my head, but I was like, I don't really know how to do that. And now plus, I'm now living in Japan with a like very elementary level of Japanese, and I like go on the internet, can't read jack, won't listen to the news, can't really understand much. I'm like, dude, I can't even figure out these things if I were in America in English. How am I supposed to do this in Japanese? And so in Japan Wi-Fi Buddy's case, it was tricky because it was like, yeah, there's a lot of competition. I don't really know if the government or some huge company is gonna come out and just be like, free Wi-Fi everywhere. Japan is so small that it could fit inside California. So it's actually like not that insane to imagine a company or an organization being like, hey, let's just set up free Wi-Fi everywhere kind of thing. Like, I didn't know any of these possibilities at the time. But like I mentioned in the last video, I just knew that I had to give something a shot, so I just did it. So we grabbed 3 pocket Wi-Fi routers, got 3 SIM cards, put them in, rented them out to my friends, and then got started. We were off to the races. I didn't actually have a goal of like, yes, by March of this year, we're going to control 30% of the market share of tourists traveling to Japan or anything like that. It was just like, I would like to rent these out. And so we did it. Another really tricky thing for me is like, the high school I went to and the college I went to were pretty competitive. And I know a lot of people who got into like, you know, getting angel investors and seed money to like grow their company. I don't think I know anybody that's built a company that's gone public, but you hear about all these things and it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't understand any of that. I don't even know the first thing about what a seed money is. So scary, I'm not gonna do that. You know, and so for me, knowing of all of these weird, scary things, especially being in Japan, not even being able to present the most elementary of ideas in Japanese to investors or anything, I'm just like, I can't do all those things, so I'm just gonna go get some routers and try it out. And so what we did was, we considered how we can keep our costs down, we considered how we can limit our risk, we considered how, if this all went bonkers, haywire, super dumpster fire, could we survive? And obviously, we did it like real small scale. We weren't about to go and just like destroy our competition's market share or something like that, starting with 3 devices. And another big part of that was just starting out of our house. We knew most of our competition were paying really top dollar to have offices in Tokyo, we're not in Tokyo, we're outside of Tokyo. So it's much cheaper here and we can, start things inside our house, saving money and lowering costs. But one of the really tricky things when you're starting a company is that it's like really sleazy and like kind of nasty. You look at entrepreneurship on YouTube and it's like guys with Lamborghinis and like billion-dollar mansions and everybody's like, super gorgeous and stuff like that. And it's like, how do I get from having 3 pocket Wi-Fi routers to that level? Like, when am I actually an entrepreneur? When is this not a side gig anymore? And things like that. But, you look at that and you're like, okay, there's 2 temptations. There's one to be like, I am starting my own company. You might even get some investment money or a loan from the bank and be like, okay, now I'm an investor. Now I'm gonna get a sweet computer. Now I'm gonna get a dope office chair that costs $2,000. Now I'm gonna lease an office space in a big building or something like that. That's one end of it. And the other end is to just be like super bare bones, super minimal, super basic, and just try to make $1. Like getting over that first step from 0 to 1, which is more than an infinity return. Getting over that is the hardest part. And obviously, depending on the type of business you're starting, it's gonna require a lot of creativity. It's gonna require a lot of flexibility. It's gonna be really uncomfortable. And if you're working in partnership with a friend or a spouse, then you're gonna have all these grinding points on that as well, But one of the things, and this sounds like really basic and obvious now, but one of the things we learned is that if you just start with really, really, really low expenses, you don't actually have to sell that much to start making a profit, So it was like, we were using a drawer like this big. We were paying like 40, 50 bucks a month for the leases. So if we make 50 bucks a month, we've broken even and the risk is gone now, kind of thing. On the flip side, if we're making 200 bucks or 500 bucks a month, that's all profit that we can use to put it back and get more routers, to build a website, to maybe hire somebody to outsource the shipping or things like that. And that's when you can start growing. That's the way we decided to do our small business. And that's how we decided to keep the risk really low. There definitely are business models where it requires like, okay, I need $100,000 to put into my company to like make manufacturing way, way, way cheaper to keep costs down. So hey, crowdfunding site, give us 100 grand or something like that. There are different types of business models, but if you're working on your computer in your house or, renting things out that are small and compact, this is a really easy way to keep your costs low. And additionally, what I learned when you're keeping costs low is that there's no pressure. You don't have to rush. You don't have to stress. You can sleep at night. One of the really hard things when you have an office and a bunch of staff that you have to be paying is like, dude, we haven't made any money in a few months. Oh my gosh, I have to hurry up and do stuff. I have to get it done. I have to pay my loans back. I have to pay rent and all this stuff, But if you can keep your costs really, really low, then it's just kind of like, we made a couple of rentals. We're home free. Anything after this is a cherry on top. This is dope. So all that to say, keeping your leasing or rent costs down while you're getting your business off the ground is a really, really good way to make it easier to be profitable and therefore lowering the hurdle towards, success and profitability and growth and stuff like that. And so one of the ways we did that in Japan was we started up a share house. We have a few share houses, but one of them that we started up actually used to be a salon on the first floor. And the people who ran the salon lived on the second floor. And so I imagine the salon was paying their entire mortgage so they could like live for free. Check it out, we got a picture here during the demolition. We came in, did all the demolition ourselves, eventually turned it into a share house, which is basically a bunch of people living together in a big house, sharing a kitchen, sharing a family room, sharing furniture and stuff like that, while at the same time, having their own individual lives. That's not very rare in Japan, but we decided that we probably could provide something like a new service that wasn't really very common in our area. And so we decided to open one up. In that one, we have 7 ladies living there. And basically, as long as it's half full, they're covering the mortgage, our property value is growing, and we also have very low risk. And so it's neat because it's win-win. We're providing a really good service in a way that makes rent and utility fees cheaper than living on your own, while providing community, while also, building connections and building real relationships. And at the same time, we're also benefiting from it because property values and stuff are growing. Here's a video of the share house at our opening launch party. And here's And we'll also put up a picture here of what it looks like in the shared living space. You see the family room, dining room, and a little kitchen there for everybody to kind of spend time together in after work. Similarly, another way that we are keeping the expense bar low for our own business is we have another share house which we live in, you know, and so there's a big demand for English speaking, English teaching, English conversation in Japan. So we opened up our house. We have some rooms where guys can come and live, and they sign 1-year contracts. We eat meals together each week. We also hang out all the time, and it's cool because they're getting to live in a nice house. They're getting the service that they've been looking for and good food and all that stuff, while at the same time, we don't have to worry about paying our mortgage. And so in some ways, there's like, we gotta be aware of things around the clock, but at the same time, our risk is really low because as long as we have a few guys in there, we're okay, and we don't have to worry about paying our own mortgage because that's taken care of. So those are a couple of ideas for you if you're thinking about real estate, and also if you're thinking about how to keep risk and how to keep those expenses low so that getting to profitability is a lower hurdle. I'd be really interested to hear if any of you in North America have small businesses like that, where you're able to cover expenses like your own personal living expenses while at the same time being able to operate out of that same space. If so, please share down in the comments section. And so another thing I was considering when getting started was like, how can I reward myself? How can I pay myself properly while also keeping costs down? And so once we did a Shopify website actually for Japan Wi-Fi Buddy in the early days, which was really weird because Shopify is designed for stores where you sell stuff, not rental businesses. And so setting that up was like really quite tricky. And there were some plugins that like were band-aids and stuff like that, but eventually we ended up building like an entire custom thing that manages all our inventory, and you can track each device, it's all history and all that stuff. If you're looking for something like that, let me know. We can provide you with that. But anyway, so we're doing it on Shopify, and one of the cool things on Shopify is that you can see your reports. So I would like always be looking at our 90-day sales numbers. And so early on, obviously we're making about $1,000 a month, and that $1,000 a month was like really, really, really huge for me at the time. Obviously later on we grew to be much bigger than that. But one of the challenges I had was like, when is it okay to start being a little bit more like spendy with my income and the company's income? And so I set a goal for myself, and I said, once we break the $5,000 per 90 days level of income, then it'll be okay for me to buy this new laptop. It's gonna be more powerful, it's gonna be more efficient. Hopefully I'll be able to get more work done in less time. But I just said, that's my goal, you know? And so I pushed hard to reach that goal. Eventually we got to it, like a couple months later, and I was like, yes, new laptop kind of thing, you know? And so that's how you can set these landmarks or goal points. They actually motivate you and push you harder while at the same time being wise about controlling costs and stuff like that. And you can also do that. What we did later on when we had the team, we would say, if we reach X level of sales, we can all go together on a trip, you know, and we would like drive across the island and spend 4 days or whatever on the other side of the island and stay at cool hotels, eating buffets and stuff like that. And that was like really fun for the team. Yeah, and so for me, like I'm really easily influenced by these, you know, huge influencers and like high tech, you know, I started Facebook or Apple in my garage type stories, and I'm like, I don't have that, so I guess I'm not an entrepreneur. But what I've been learning on this adventure over the last few years is that it's like, dude, you don't have to be those things. You can just give it a shot, start really small, take a baby step, and then another baby step. And yeah, some of those baby steps are gonna be really scary, but you learn stuff the whole time you're doing it. Like, you can't learn those things just from a book. You can't learn those things just from reading famous people's tweets. You have to just try it. And so that's my challenge for you today, is to just give it a shot, just do it. But when you're gonna go out and just do it, think about the ways that you can minimize the risk. You can minimize the potential damage on your wallet. Because if you like mortgage your house and go out and use all of your money and then it fails, you're jacked. And you're actually not being responsible or helpful to society or yourself or your family or things like that. So figure out how you can do it in a way that's not going to end you. Same thing like I always mention in my stock videos. Yeah, there's a bunch of stocks right now that are super duper cheap. I just did a video on Nordstrom and Carnival Cruise Lines. Super duper cheap, you can buy them. And yeah, they might grow 2-3x in the coming months or quarters or years, but they might also disappear. Is your investing strategy built in such a way that if they went to zero, you could still keep moving forward without having to get like 10 million% return on your investment to get back to where you were. And it's also just safe to assume that you will fail. Like I mentioned in the last video, my first business was like I was in elementary school. And then my first actual kind of successful business was in 2017, 18, you know? And so the like 30 years in between that was mostly failure. So be prepared to fail too, and be humble enough to be like, wow, that sucked for this and this and this reason. So I'm gonna learn how to overcome those failures and then give it another shot, you know? And that's really what it's all about. I'm super interested to hear about your experience. Like for those of you who have already started a business, what have been some challenges? What have been some neat ways that you saved some money to lower that bar, to lower that hurdle? And for those who are thinking about starting a business, is it like, you know, I'm scared because of this and this and that, or I just don't have the money yet? Like, what are some things that are holding you up from moving forward in that? Additionally, you know, as usual, I want to keep a conversation going in the comments section. I want to hear your thoughts, your concerns, your challenges, or if there are any questions you have for me about my life here in Japan or different businesses we've started here, feel free to join in the comments section down below. We're gonna keep going in this series, going into the coming weeks. And again, we're gonna be flexible, and maybe in a little while we can have some live streams or things like that. Let me know. I wanna hear your feedback. I wanna hear your thoughts on all these different things. And don't forget to hit the bell button down below, hit the subscribe button, and leave a like. That helps us a lot here. And thank you very much for your time, for watching all the way to the end. That means a lot to us because I know there are a lot of different YouTube channels out there right now. So looking forward to talking to you guys soon.